Creating a fiscal year or calendar year entity. In order to create an entity, you must enter Entity Setup. Access Entity Setup by right-clicking on the Explorer pane or the View pane, selecting New and Entity. Alternative methods are to use the Actions menu, New, and select Entity, or use the icon New Entity. The Entity Setup has 4 tabs: General, Advanced, History, and the Access tab. On the General tab is where we enter the information regarding the entity. You enter the entity's name, select from the drop-down what type of entity this is. The type of entity will indicate what format the taxpayer's identification code will be in. You enter the business start date and the accounting period that you want to start tracking in Fixed Asset Manager. For calendar year, it's going to be January 1st through December 31st. Other options on the screen include the option to elect a 53-week year and to calculate Section 179. If you want the system to calculate 179, you check this box. The system will indicate to you that checking this box may add additional time to the calculation process. You can decide at this point whether to leave the checkbox selected or to unselect. Leaving the checkbox selected allows you to enter the business income limitation for Section 179, the amount of Section 179 reported on a 1065-K1, and the amount of Section 179 reported on an 1120-S-K1. This option also allows you to tell the system the entity is in a qualified enterprise zone. Once you've made these elections, you can click OK to save the entity, or, as we recommend, go to the Advanced tab to set up further information. When you click OK or the Advanced tab, you will get a message prompting you that fiscal years were created on the History tab. And it also suggests you update the History tab if there are any short years that occurred since the business was started. Select OK, and your entity will be saved, or you will be transferred to the Advanced tab. On the Advanced tab, there are 2 sections: the Asset Identification Codes and the Mid-Quarter Convention Elections. In the Asset ID Codes, this section allows you to choose the format to enter the asset IDs. A pound sign is an alphanumeric character. You can also enter a prefix preceding the asset ID code. The next asset ID code is generated by the system, and we allow you to change this to be any ID code that you want to start with. You can increment this asset ID code by selecting the number you want to increment by. This option, Use System-Generated Asset ID Codes, is automatically selected. This option is required if you're doing inter-entity transfers or if you're splitting assets. The Mid-Quarter Convention option allows you to select you want us to calculate mid-quarter, you want to force the mid-quarter convention, or prevent the mid-quarter convention. The Values section calculates the mid-quarter convention values, and you can come into Entity Setup and recalculate this value at any time. The last option on this page is if the entity is an S corporation, you can select that it was a C corporation during the past 3 years. This will aid in the calculation of Section 291 on the 4797, page 2, line 26F. Once you've made these elections, click on the History tab. On the History tab, you will see the tax years from the start date through to the end of the current accounting period that you have entered. If you have any years that have short years, you access that year. In the end date, type your short year date. The program will automatically mark it as a short year. And on the last line, enter the other half of that short year. When you click off this field, it will automatically put these dates in logical order. Notice my 2 short years are indicated. Use the Access tab to allow and restrict users access to selected entities within the database. If no restrictions are created, all users that log in to the database will have access to all entities in that database. Access is assigned to entities by using database roles. Only users that are assigned to a role will have access to the entities in the role. For more information, refer to the Setting Up Access to Entities section in the First Time Setup for New Installations guide. This feature is only available in the Enterprise Edition of Fixed Asset Manager. To close and save the entity you've just created, click OK.